What is up, guys? It is the one, the only Fatal Onion here. How are you doing today? I hope you're all having a groovy good day because I know I am. No, it's not because my kitty's trying to currently jump up on my lap right now. It is the fact that I have the Sony A1 in my possession and I'm here to share my review of using this camera for 1 month as an amateur photographer. Little side note, I have been doing photography not as a full-time job by any means, but I have been taking it a lot more seriously in the last year. August of 2022 was when I really started honing in and taking photography seriously and wanting to do something with it. So I've really kind of developed my way of the lens in the course of a year. Prior to August of 2022, I didn't really do anything with photography. I did take a couple of sports photos here and there for some local running events, but other than that, it really wasn't anything until, again, last year. So I did shoot on a Sony a6400, and then a month later is a Sony a9 Mark II, and then fast forward to the beginning of August of 2023 is when I got this beast, and this camera is phenomenal. I've been using it for sports work as well as portrait work, and it is seriously incredible. The sensor on this thing, you're getting a 50 megapixel sensor. I don't know the specs or anything like that aside from it being a 50 megapixel. I'm not that in depth with cameras, and I'm not going to be sharing that information with you. So if you're looking for that, you're going to have to go elsewhere. This is just going to be kind of this is just going to be an overall review. None of that nitty gritty specs and speeds, yada, yada, yada kind of stuff. But with the 50 megapixel sensor, the image quality is incredible. It's literally double the sensor size of what I'm recording this video on right now, the Sony a9 Mark II. So my keeper rate, for one, is much higher than other cameras that I've shot on because you're able to crop in your images so heavily with such a large sensor or a megapixel image. It's just phenomenal. So not only are your images looking much better, but like I said, your keeper rate is much higher because you got the crop factor on your side with this camera. With the sensor, obviously your video quality is going to be a lot better too. I haven't really dabbled too much with the video aspect of the camera. All I know is the last video I recorded with this, granted YouTube really compressed the video quality, but the last video I recorded was phenomenal. It was incredible how awesome of a camera this thing really is, with the quality of images as well as video. Another great thing about this camera is the speed. This thing is an absolute unit. You know what? I'll turn it on right now. I'm sure everyone has heard this already. Make sure I got no memory cards in here, but listen to this. That is just ridiculous. Absolutely mind-blowing. I've never shot that high of a burst rate. They got like low, medium, high, and high plus. I've never shot on high plus yet, but you don't miss a shot, my man. It is ridiculous how many images you can shoot off, especially at such a high megapixel image. It's just mind-boggling. I will say though, which we'll discuss a little bit later, you will need a very powerful memory card if you want to shoot at these kind of frame rates, I guess you can phrase it as. Another thing that is pretty cool is the flash duration that you're able to shoot with this. Compared to other cameras, your max sync speed for using external flashes, I believe, is 1/250th of a second. However, with this, you're able to shoot at 1/400th of a second, which is very nice. I'm kind of getting into portrait work, as mentioned, and I'm experimenting with flash photography and such. So having the ability to, bump up my camera settings and such, instead of depending on my flash power and draining my batteries, really makes a big difference when I'm out in the field. Not only is this camera fantastic and it's going to last you many years, but it's also one of the newer Sony cameras on the market. So realistically, this thing is not going to go anywhere. And if you're anything like me, age-proofing is a big factor when it comes to things. Granted, a lot of cameras that are made nowadays, especially in like the last 10 years, are really, really well built, and the chances of this thing going out of commission anytime soon, it's going to be very, very minimal. That even goes for the Sony a9 Mark II. This thing came out in 2019, and it's still a powerhouse of a camera body. But this, since it came out in 2021, I can imagine it's going to be around for a very, very long time. Another great thing about this camera compared to other cameras is the touch screen for navigating the menus and such. The menus for the previous Sony cameras are very just blah, kind of hard to navigate. But thankfully with a touch screen, Kitty, what you got? You got me a present? So where were we? We were talking about navigating through the menus. The menus on the Sony A1 are so much easier to use just with the touchscreen factor. You're able to scroll through and just click, 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 rather than using the knob on the Sony A9 and having to spin, find the menu, all that stuff. Instead, it's a lot more laid out on the A1, and it's very nice to be able to just pinpoint where you need to go. So these aren't necessarily like pros or cons to purchasing this camera. One thing I would like to touch on is the noise. I personally haven't had much of an issue with it. If anything, it looks better than my previous camera, the Sony A9 Mark II, when shooting in low light conditions such as a gymnasium. I'm shooting at typically between 4,000 and 5,000 ISO, sometimes 6,400. And yeah, obviously your image is going to have some noise, but that's what denoise is, and any other denoising software, Photoshop or wherever else, that's what that's for, is to help minimize the noise. But I have seen a video by DTV Productions. He was saying that the noise on the Sony A1 is terrible. But I don't know. I shoot photo, I don't shoot video. He does a lot of video work, so I'm not sure if that would explain the noise is because it's in video or what. But yeah, for photos, it's not really that big of a deal to me. And also battery life. Battery life has been a little wonky on this. I know the Sony A9 Mark II really would last me a long time for batteries, because I do got the battery grip on it, thankfully, which that does help. But before, I would be able to get through like what, 4 to 6 hours of shooting on just 2 batteries, and now I'm a little weary if that will be able to happen with this camera. I mean, I can kind of understand because it's a lot more powerful than the Sony A9, and you know, the burst rate, the amount of images it's processing, all that stuff. I can definitely understand why the battery life would drain a little faster on this compared to a different camera. Now, the negatives I'd like to discuss are, one, obviously the price. If you buy used, that will save you a lot of money, which is exactly what I did. This camera, brand new, is like around $7,000 after tax just for the body. That's not counting, depending on if you buy used or not, $200 to $400 battery grip, an additional battery, which is about $80, which I do not buy off-brand batteries. If I'm paying $7,000, let's say, for a camera, I'm going to want to spend that extra $80 for the real battery. So I got the real battery in here. If you want to shoot at those high burst rates and not have a lot of buffer delay and such, you will need to get different memory cards or SD cards. So you got to get like the Express A cards, and those are expensive as well. I believe I got a 160 gigabyte card, and this was like $300, somewhere in that ballpark. So you got to pay for the SD card as well as an SD card adapter, which is also very expensive. So this camera, again, is expensive on top of all the accessories and such that you need to purchase to make this work. Granted, if you buy used, you'll save a lot of money, which is what I did, and I saved thousands of dollars buying used. So I do recommend it. But you just got to be wary of where you buy your cameras at, because there are a lot of scams out there, especially on eBay or Facebook marketplaces. That's where I bought mine. Thankfully, I got a very good deal and a good bargain on it, so I'm not complaining about it. But yeah, you just got to watch out where you are buying your gear from if you do decide to buy used. And that is it, fellas. The Sony A1 and my thoughts of this camera, and I guess you can say a review in the last month of my use of using this. This camera is an absolute incredible camera. I'm very glad I bought it, and I'm excited to see where it takes me in the upcoming months and even years of photography, because seriously, this right now is really making my images pop, stand out, and really, you know, just go against all competition. Guys, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'd be happy to try to assist you to the best of my ability if it's anything pertaining to the camera or anything about me. Guys, once again, I hope you did enjoy. I hope to see you in a future video or live stream, whenever that'll be. And as always, guys, thank you for watching.